Dr. Jazz.
Got Nuke Time on your wall there, Nuke's Time.
Where? Yeah. It's sunny. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like the
Nuke's time.
album.
Yeah. Exactly.
Nuke's
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah. It's my little crib here down in the basement, the music room. So
And you got a banjo there too, huh?
yeah, I play basically banjo and acoustics and mandolin and
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
all the string
I
instruments.
love the banjo.
Oh man,
I
banjo
have a
is
seven, I have a 7-foot banjo in my laboratory.
of course you do. It's like I'm not even like surprised almost. I am, but
So
where? Sorry. Yeah.
did we meet before or no?
No, not yet. Definitely
Okay.
not yet. Yeah. But Scott, I wanted to ask you, like, where does this love for all these different instruments come from for you? Like, I mean, I know, and I also read in your newsletter you did this Anno Sony project, which was like every day you recorded a different instrument. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a joint question, but like, what's the story behind there?
Just the love of sound. The instruments are there to create sound, and I love sounds, and so if you pursue that, uh, can get pretty involved. I've pursued that love of sound for many, many, many years, 50 years. And over 50 years, that's caused me to end up with this huge amount of just all kinds of crazy instruments, mostly wind instruments, but
Yeah.
also electronics, percussion. Last night I'm in the laboratory every night working on music. And last night I was recording timpani out there.
Wow. Okay.
It's always something, but I can play the timpani now because I've had my operation. I can't play the saxophone right now. I can't really perform. I'm walking around with this cane, which is
Yeah.
a flute.
Exactly. That's great.
This is how I've been getting around. So,
That's a nice walking cane
everything,
which can play. That's beautiful.
yeah, everything has a purpose. It's all part of the fun. I use this cane in my daily sound piece. And, at first I thought 365 instruments, one every day, I'm gonna run out. So at first I was using like I'd use a little bell this big, and then another day I'd use one like this big because I figured, I'm gonna have to end up using everything I have. But when I got to the end of the year, I realized no. Now my problem is I've got all these instruments I still want to use, and I don't have enough days to fit them in anymore. So I ended up with this list of things I didn't get to use. So
Wow.
there's more sounds here than there are days in a year.
Wow. Interesting. Are you gonna release this as an album or a project or like
Yeah,
really?
I'm definitely going to release it. I mean, now I have to mix it all, and
Yeah.
it's going to
Wow.
take some time because it's 365 different instruments. But they don't all play at one time. There's one
Yeah.
after the other.
Yeah.
So it's like unfolding like a carpet unfolding through
Wow.
the course of a whole year. Whatever I hear each day, I add according to what I had before, and I just see where it goes. And so it became a lot of fun for me. And I started documenting each instrument. I thought, if I'm doing this, if anybody's interested at all, which maybe they won't be, well, maybe you are. But
Sure.
if anybody's interested, they might want to know what these things are that I'm using, And so I said I should document each instrument as I use it. So I started posing each one against the wood of
That's
the
right.
laboratory walls, like similar setting, posing each one carefully and getting a photograph. I mean, some of them are too large to be posed that way. I had to get up on a ladder and take a picture. But generally, I tried to make all the photos very specific to each instrument and document each one. So then what I want to do when I've mixed it, I want to put it out with a nice booklet
Yeah.
with 365 photos,
Ooh,
each one numbered,
beautiful.
each numbered for each day, so that people can watch as they listen and see what these things are, because there's
Yeah,
things in there that nobody's ever seen.
that's very interesting. Wow. How long are these small snippets? I mean, the daily ones. Like, how much music is there?
I I let each one be whatever it felt like it
Okay.
wanted to be. So a lot of the sounds are very short. Might be one note or just pop, some little percussive
Mm,
noise.
mm.
Um, but then other instruments, I would let them speak for a while. If it felt like it was time for a little solo, I'd go ahead and play for 20 seconds or something. And so it's very uneven. There's very short sounds, and then there's longer statements of a particular sound.
Beautiful.
And I'm just curious
Oh,
to see what it feels like to listen to it, because I haven't listened to the thing in any kind of continuous fashion. Every night I go out and I listen just back to the last half a dozen sounds or something. And what do I hear next? I
oh wow,
hear a flute, some kind of bamboo flute or something. So then I go looking, like, what is it?
that's amazing.
Ooh, no, it's too low. Perfect. And I use that one.
Fantastic.
So, listening back had to be, it'll be interesting to find out if these sounds seem to connect to each other for the listener the way they did to me at the time that I
Mm.
did the performance. And we'll see, because it's a year long.
Yeah, yeah. No, it sounds exciting. It sounds like a novel. You're gonna listen to a novel, like this storyline, I think, because you are listening, you were listening back to what you did basically the last 10. So that's always there's always a common thread, I think, then even though it goes, of course, probably somewhere always, but
Yeah, I've never listened to the
exciting.
whole thing, so
Exciting.
I don't know how it's going to hang together, but it's going to be different than the way music is usually structured, because it's not
Yeah,
theme and development or anything like that. Uh, it's more just each sound directly responding to the previous sound, um, and setting something up for the next sound. So there's this immediacy to each
mm,
sound. They all have equal weight in a way. So it's not like theme and variations or anything like
yeah,
that. So some people, I'm sure, will listen to it and say, well, it's interesting, but it doesn't make sense as a piece of music.
mm,
And my hope is that it will make sense as a piece of music, but not the type of music that people are used to hearing.
yeah,
It's not structured the way music usually is. And I'm very interested in these kinds of ways of creating music that are different. And for me, this is a very new process. It's like, wow, here's a whole new way to think about creating a composition. I've
yeah,
never done anything like this. Has anybody done anything like this? I don't know. It's like a new way of making music.
yeah,
And so for me, it's very exciting. And I'm not going to try to judge it on the basis of other types of compositions that I would sit down and write.
yeah.
And in that way, it's similar to my symphony project, which is a similar idea in a way, but much more long term. So I've been working on that for 5 years,
Wow,
and I've got, I think, 12 to 15 years still to go on the symphony.
wow.
And there also, it's just done by ear. There's no written music. I don't work anything out. There's no considerations of harmony. It's just done by ear, a little bit every day. I add to a little bit every day. But where the Anno Sony piece is just one sound at a time, this is stacked up. You've got big
Yeah.
sections of horns and big sections of this and this and that, like a symphony orchestra, but it's the kind of symphony orchestra that doesn't exist anywhere in the world, because I can have 15 theremins and 4 contrabass saxophones and 2 bass banjos, and
That's
I can have
amazing.
any combination I want. This is why I built my laboratory, so I could pursue these kinds of ideas, these ways of creating orchestras that couldn't exist in the real world at all.
Yeah.
So I'm working now on the
Mhm.
ending part of the first movement. And when I finish the first movement, that'll be a big deal for me, a big milestone. And then I can move ahead with the rest of the piece.
That's beautiful, man.
But
That's fantastic. No, it's a good way for you also, like as a musician and composer, to reinvent yourself, you know, after playing already for so many years, and that you get new ideas. I think that's really a great idea to do it.
Are you a composer?
Yeah, I write quite a lot. Yeah, I've written like over 300 compositions and
Okay, what are you working on now?
uh kind of like easy pieces, short melodies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's like this kind of Paul Motion vibe, or Natish, just then
Okay.
lots of open playing lately. I mean, just like have a short melody and then play. I mean, we have a gig now upcoming. I'm writing for this quartet with Michael Formanek on bass, and
Oh yeah, I know Mike.
yeah, so we have a gig, and then I think I'll write some music for that band, and thinking still where to go, but I want to keep it fairly open. I mean, just
Yeah, that's
to
a
get,
beautiful way to write music, is simple little sketches, little
yeah,
ideas, and let them just serve as kind of launching pads for great players.
yeah,
This is the kind of the way my old dear friend Frank Kimbrough,
yeah, I
it's
know,
kind of
man. Yeah, yeah,
he wrote. Of course, he worked with Paul Motian too,
yeah,
and he liked to write very simple, sketchy little pieces and let the players flesh those out by bringing their game to it.
yeah,
And for me, it's I don't participate in these arguments of music should be this or it should be that. It should be simple. No, 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 no. It's got to become more complex. No, no, no. It should be simple. It should be loud. No, 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 no. It shouldn't ever be loud. It should be this. It should be that. I don't participate in any of those arguments, because they're all beautiful approaches to
yeah,
making music. Why not have all of those possibilities? So I love sketchy little pieces like Frank used to write.
yeah,
And then you just play, it's a wonderful thing. And then I also love very complicated, specific, really, worked out writing, and that's the way the world is. It's
yeah,
like the simple and the complex are all woven together. And to me, the words simple and complex are more about how you look at a thing
yep,
than the thing itself,
yeah,
right? I look at the sky every night before bed. That's the last thing I do every day. And you see these little twinkly stars. It's very simple, right? Little points of light. That's it. But they're unimaginably complex, and all the forces at work in them, and then how
crazy.
they interact, and on and on and on and on. Is that simple? Is it complex? It's both. It's just how you look at them.
Yeah, exactly. No. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's like, I mean, I've written really complex music, you know, like tons of odd meters and heavy harmony, and but nowadays I'm just like really this simplicity. I don't know. What are you writing on? I saw you have a gig coming up. I mean, a couple of gigs at Birdland with your quartet, end of May. Like, and have you been writing new music, or will you record also some new music, or?
Well, thank you for that. That's a good question. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to play again. And I feel like I'm getting close now to being able to play. I tried to play about a week ago,
Right.
and I actually really hurt myself. I tried to push it too soon, and my guts really it
Not
set
good.
me back several days. But now I'm okay again. So now I'm going to play it cool. Doctor's orders. I'm not going to play for another week. But yeah, so these gigs coming up will be really good for me to be back to playing music, because I play every day. That's what I do, you know. And as far as the compositions, uh, my problem is I'm very slow and kind of lazy in a way. I mean, even though I work on music every day, I'm thinking about music all the time. When it comes to really sitting down and working out my compositions, I'm not good about following through a lot of times.
Mm.
Right now, I have several things I've been working on, either in my head or on paper or both, and I need to finish those. That's that's where it's hard for me, is finishing things. I need to finish those. So there's an original piece called Skitter, which I think is going to be very nice. It's these melodic fragments that kind of dash around and stop and start. And I need to it's a little bit like I don't know if you know my album called 10 or More, but
Yeah, sure.
so the title piece on that, the piece called 10 or More, was written on the tenor. I mean, I basically just every night I would try to come up with a phrase that felt complete and kind of polish it. And then once I felt like it was good, I'd write it down.
Good idea. Yeah.
And I'd start on a new phrase, and I'd play around with it. No, that's not quite right. And when it felt like it just sat right there next to the other phrase, then I would write it down. And I did this until I had, I don't know, 6 phrases or something like that. And this was done just purely melodically and rhythmically, just playing them. Then I sat down later and created harmonies for each of those. And I didn't do it by using any kind of, it's not really functional harmony where I'm trying to go from here to there. I just said, what do I hear? I usually have the best results writing when I just trust whatever I hear and never mind any other consideration.
Yeah.
So what do I hear? I hear this kind of, and moving to this and to that. And so I wrote out these specific voicings actually for each of these phrases until it just felt like a complete little statement that just went from here to there. I didn't worry about what key is it in or anything. And I just did each one of these phrases and I put them together with little drum solos in between of indeterminate length. And I ended up with this composition that I really was satisfied. I really was happy with it. There was a little more to it than that, but that was the basis of it. So this piece, Skitter, is a little bit like that, except it's not separate phrases that stand alone with drum solos. It's a little more continuous, but it's the same idea. I just sat night after night with the horn playing, and when something felt right, I'd write it down, and then I'd play and see where does it go next. I'm not thinking about harmony or anything. So now I have this whole piece.
That's great.
I think it's just about written out, except I need a kind of a coda. And now I have to do the harder part, which is to sit down and come up with these harmonies for it. And I just need to do that. So hopefully I'll have that at the end of May. And then I'm also working on a couple of arrangements of old standard tunes that are going to be different, distinctive arrangements of Things Are Looking Up.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other one I've been working on? Now I can't come up with the title, but anyway, it's in my head somewhere. Working on different ideas. I'll have something new for May.
Will you record this also with this group after this, or?
I hope to. I want to record everything. Everything I come up with, I want to record. For my label, Science Sonic Laboratories, I use that to record the more abstract, far out kind of stuff. The quartet music, I feel like it ought to be on a label, on somebody else's label. Arbor's put out 10 or More, and it did very well, and it won Record of the Year in Jazz Times in the Readers.
Wow.
And I said, "Come on, let's do it. Let's do a volume 2." In fact, we already have extra material, but so far
It's hard.
they're not coming through with that. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
But yes, I want to document anything I write, any arrangement, anything. I would like to see it out there at some point.
Yeah. I love this
That's
idea.
cool.
I love this idea of how to approach writing, like you said, like just every evening a phrase, because sometimes when I sit down and compose, like I feel like it's something that I've written, like let's say 3 years ago, or it's similar to. And this way, I think it's fresh then because you're not bothered by the whole tune. It's just a snippet. I think it's such a cool idea.
Yeah, I just need to step it up, get to work,
Yeah,
get some of these done.
beautiful. I'm looking forward to this. When did you start the Science Sonic label and laboratories? I mean, what was the main impetus behind it? I mean, just to document where you are and release stuff, or?
Well, I had reached a point where I had so many instruments, and I was living in an apartment, and I had all these great sounds, but it was at the point where they were stacked up. I couldn't even access them, When I first got my timpani, I used one of them as a coffee table, and that was great, for a while.
Sure.
But then I got more and more stuff. I had to pile it on top of the timps, and I ended up with this stuff stacked up to the ceiling, and the timp is sitting there useless. I can't access it, and I don't really have any way to. So then I started to think, it's time to move. It's time to find a place where I have some room to spread these things out where I can use them. And at that time, I was, well, I mean, still today, I've been associated with Roscoe Mitchell, the great art ensemble Chicago saxophonist and composer. We'd become pals, and we were writing each other letters and stuff, and doing some performances together and stuff like that, and sending each other things in the mail. And he sent me this album of his in the mail, and I believe it's called Sound Songs.
Okay.
I think that's what it's called. There's a piece on there called Fallen Heroes. Anyway, it's a double CD, if I remember right. I have it here somewhere. And it's just him, or at least a lot of it is just him overdubbing himself with different flutes and different things and bells and all this. He's got all this great stuff, And I listened to that album, and it made a big impression on me. And I thought, why am I not doing this? I've got not just bells and flutes and things. I've got bass trombones and tubas and ophicleides and theremins and on and on and on. What kind of sounds could I come up with if I started overdubbing these different things? And of course, to haul everything to a recording studio and pay $200 an hour and be watching the clock all the time would make it very, very difficult to just relax and create these kinds of orchestras that I was imagining. So I said, it's time to make a move and set up a situation, a dedicated space where I can have my instruments out and available. And I can spend all day if I want on just a few sounds or just 1 minute of something, and not worry about the clock, not worry about times running out, and not worry about arguing with the engineer. No, I want the microphone over here. No, but it's too much air. And if I can do it myself, I can solve my problems in private. And I can do something over 40 times if I want. And it's just the way I need it to go. So around that same time, it was looking like I was going to get married to my dear old friend from sixth grade band, if you can believe that. And so we started looking for a house, and we found this house in New Jersey, and it's got it's not a paradise, but it's a nice old house with a big, beautiful oak tree in the back and a yard, front yard and a backyard, and this big building out back, which used to be a two-car garage and is now my science-sonic laboratory. So it took me some years to get it built because we had to do a lot of work out there to make it more or less soundproofed and wood paneling and everything. The sound is really good, and lights in it's got a vaulted ceiling with lights set in and all of this kind of stuff. I wanted everything to be just right. Big, thick doors are like this thick to block the sound, and I got these huge hinges to hold these doors because they're 200 pounds each or 220 pounds each, something like that. And so we constructed this place, and now you walk in and it's just a beautiful room. It sounds great. It feels great to play out there. People love coming over and playing. And I've got all these instruments set up, and there's a nice piano, and there's a drum set, and there's timpani, and there's all kinds of tubas and percussion and vibraphone and bass marimba and on and on and on. And it's great. I go out there now and I feel like I'm in a temple. It's a temple sound. It's my religious, it's my house of worship, really, to be honest with you. And it just feels good to be out there. And the room invites music, it invites creativity. It asks you to create. Asks you to create. So I think the construction was finished in 2009, to answer your question. Okay. Something like that. I think my first recordings out there was my friend Julian Thayer, my old buddy from college. I think those recordings, earliest recordings, I think were done in 2009. And then the first albums started coming out in 2010. And there's about 15 releases now. And I'm preparing a new one right now. Within the coming week, I'll have the mixes done for a new album with Jules and the drummer Ferron Aklaf.
Oh, beautiful, man. Okay.
That group's been together since the 1980s, and we've never put out an album, if you can believe that.
Wow.
So we're gonna fix
debut.
that.
Wow.
Yeah. The group is called Art, and it's a small A and then a capital R and a capital T. And so the small A is for Aklaf and then Robinson Thayer. So it's our initials, Art. Okay. That's the name of the group, and it'll be the name of this first album, which I think is going to be a beautiful album.
Fantastic.
Recorded in a lab in January, a couple of months ago.
Wow, beautiful. So there's new music coming. That's good. Good to hear.
Oh yeah, no, I need to step it up because I've got a lot of stuff in the can too. That I've got recordings done out there with Roscoe, a bunch of things with Roscoe, several with Marshall Allen. I've got more material with Frank Kimbrough.
Wow, man, yeah. Oof, come on, get it out.
Tony Tabal, and I've got some quartet stuff I did out there that I would like to put out at some point with Helen Sung and Martin Wynn and Dennis McCrell. It's not all crazy music out there. We play tunes and stuff too, and there's a pile of recordings. A lot of stuff with Jules, my Czech pianist friend from Prague, Emil Vyklitsky.
Sure.
I've got probably another album's worth of duets with him sitting around. So I have a lot of work to do. Creative music for 3 alto clarinets that I recorded that I haven't done anything with yet. On and on and on. So
wow, okay. Yeah. That's beautiful.
I got to get busy. But the art project, that's brand new. That was just recorded.
Fantastic. How did you hook up with Roscoe, by the way?
When I first moved to I mean, I had heard him. I had gone to hear him in the past when I was young, but I first really met him when I moved to New York from Boston. I had no gigs, I had no money, I had nothing. And so I took a crappy apartment in East Harlem and lived really, I would say, I would have to say a life of poverty, not to make it sound too dramatic, but I took a job working in a music store. In those days, the music stores were all on 48th Street, all on the same block, nothing but music stores,
Yeah.
instrument stores. It was a really fascinating block. And somebody that I had known from Boston named Hartley Severns was working in Rod Baltimore's International Woodwind and Brass shop on 48th Street. And I went to see Hartley, and I said, you know, I could use a job. I don't have any money, and I'm trying to get started here in New York. And so he talked to the boss, and he got me hired there. I guess it was part-time, which was good. I would come in at like noon or something. And it worked very well for me, so I could stay up late, do gigs once I started getting gigs. And that job was actually really good for me because I met so many musicians. All these people would come in. Pharoah Sanders would come in and try out mouthpieces, you know. John Gilmore from Sun Ra Band came in. I repaired his clarinet for him. John Zorn, I remember meeting him there. He was pretty much unknown at that time. And I met Roscoe there. And he was in town, and we just kind of hit it off. Got talking about bass saxophone and all these kind of sounds that he loves so much as I do. And I remember chatting with him in the store about that, and he says, yeah. He says, I just love these low sounds when they come slithering across the floor.
That's a nice one.
I never forgot that. So we kind of became pals, and we would send each other recordings in the mail and stuff like that. And then at one point, I got this giant contrabass sax from Rome, Italy. I don't know whether you've seen that.
Yeah, of course I saw. Yeah, exactly.
There's a CNN that
I saw that.
did a show about it. It's on YouTube. It's pretty cute. And so Roscoe really wanted that. He wanted me to play that in one of his concerts in Madison, Wisconsin. And so that was the first time I actually performed with Roscoe. That was a big project. I had to make a giant box to get that thing on a freight truck to get it to Madison, Wisconsin, and play it in this concert. But that was a lot of fun. I spent several days with him there at his home, and we would play, and he would invite friends over to do to play Bach on recorders and stuff like this. And then he'd go write his orchestra piece. He had a big score pad, and he'd working on orchestra music. And I just thought, man, this is so great. This is how I want to be, just open to everything and just loving music for what it is. And so, yeah, Roscoe became a very important influence for me, and not just his music, but that level of companionability and communication. We talk on the phone sometimes for a long time and just talk about music and stuff. A few years ago, like around pandemic time or maybe just before, we would have rehearsals over the phone with Tom Buckner, the vocalist Tom Buckner.
Wow.
We would do these sort of conference calls and just play music over the mobile phones. Kind of crazy thing to do, but it was a lot of fun. We did that for a while, like every 2 weeks.
Oh,
And
wow.
we would talk about different approaches and methodologies and how to make it more interesting and more genuine, and how to avoid certain pitfalls and stuff. And I found those sessions really fascinating. Play music and then talk about it.
Yeah.
Examine what happened, examine your approaches, and come up with different ways of approaching it that might yield more interesting results.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I like
That's-
that.
It's an interesting one, yeah, to talk about the music also after you play. It's
Yeah.
rarely done, and I think it's opens
Right.
up interesting thoughts and things, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just simple things like, Roscoe doesn't like imitation or what he calls following.
Yeah.
Following another player, like somebody starts playing staccato, and then
And then you,
okay, so now we'll all play staccato, and then everybody's going boop 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 boop.
yeah.
He doesn't really like that kind of thing, because he says you're following what someone else is doing, and if you're following, then by definition you're behind.
Mm,
You're behind in the music, so you're not really contributing if you're following. And so he would propose other ideas, like, instead of just coming along and doing what you hear someone else doing, how about examining what you hear someone else doing and taking one little piece of it, one little bit, and then thinking about that and expanding that into a whole new idea
yeah.
that can exist alongside what the other person is doing, but without mimicking what the other person is doing. That kind of thing. Those kind of discussions to me are really fascinating. And I like thinking about those kinds of, and yeah, why just blow all the time? We can also think about what we're doing and how to find interesting approaches that will yield distinct and different results.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's why I love doing these talks, just because, what you said now, for me, that it gets me thinking, and I'm like, man, this is so cool, and like, and I think especially in improvised music and in jazz, this is so important that we talk about it and exchange ideas, and it's not done enough, I think. It's just, we usually come to a gig, improvise or play, and then kind of have a drink and you go. And it's like, I think this talking, that would help to develop the music, I think.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's valid. Why not? Why not think about what we do?
Yeah.
And if we're thoughtful about what we do, then we ought to be able to talk about what we do, because once you think something through, then you have something to say about it, something to contribute. So
exactly.
Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. Scott, you mentioned the 80s when you came to New York. Like, how was it? Who were the first gigs that you got? I mean, I know lately, I checked the CDs I have you on, and I think you played in every big band that ever worked in New York since 1985. But like, what were the first connections you made in New York? How was that like for you?
Well, actually, I think the first playing I ever did in New York, if I'm not mistaken, that would have been before I lived here. And that would have been sitting in with Chet Baker.
Really? Oh, wow,
Yeah.
man.
And I think there's a clip or two on YouTube, not with video, but with sound. At least there used to, there was, and then there was something from, I think, 1982, where I had visited New York and I went to hear Chet, and he let me sit in and we played a few tunes. And there was one tune was called Ray's Idea. And that was on YouTube for a while. Somebody had recorded it, and then it disappeared. But then I think I heard that it came back again. So I have to check and see if it's there.
I'll try to search for it.
But it's a very young Scott Robinson sounding really a lot like Dexter Gordon.
Wow.
In that particular period, I was really into Dexter Gordon, and it's funny to hear it. I mean, it's not bad, I'm not ashamed of my playing, but it's not very interesting. My note choices are all pretty derivative, and it's not that original in that context. And part of that would have been the fact that I was playing with Chet Baker, and so I didn't know until later how to kind of be myself in that context and be a little bit freer, but still appropriate to that style of music, and to free myself from worrying about what a player like that would think of me if I took a few chances. What I learned later is that you can be yourself, and people like that appreciate that. Like Frank West is another one. I could try to kind of play like Frank West and be in his shadow, but the more I discovered from my work with Frank that the more I played like myself and took chances and did things my way, the bigger his smile would get, and he'd start laughing, and he just loved it. So but back in 1982, I had not really learned that lesson yet, and so I was being kind of careful and trying to play within the style and all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of cute, and Chet sounds great on this thing. So that was probably the first playing I ever did in New York. But then I didn't move here until 84.
84, okay.
And once I moved here, the first gig I did that I can remember, I'm pretty sure it was my first New York gig once I moved here. And I had come up, there was a band from college that we came to New York and did some little gig too. So that, again, was before I moved here. But once I moved here, the first gig I remember doing was substituting for Steve Slagle.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
Who was playing with a big band led by a composer and pianist named Tom Pearson. Tom Pearson is a very interesting character. He's an old friend. He lives in Japan now. He's a fascinating guy. We have a lot of fascinating conversations. Anytime I'm in Japan, we get together for lunch, we hang out, and it's always a fascinating conversation. He's got very interesting perspectives on everything in music, and I love being with him and talking with him. But he's one of these guys that he had this big band, and he would take gigs in these clubs, and the whole band would end up making $17 or something, and he would sit there and divide it up, and he would literally hand you like a dollar bill, a quarter, and a dime, and 2 pennies, like that. It was just ridiculous. The money was always completely ridiculous. But we just did it to do it and to play his music. And he actually had a lot of great players in that band. Lou Soloff and
wow.
Steve Slagle and Lou Marini and Jim Pugh and Ferron Aklaf. Actually, that's how. So the point I want to make is that just about everything I've done since then can be traced back to that gig, because he liked my playing, and he started calling me when he needed a sub or something. And then after a while, it was more like I'm in the band and he's calling me, and then if I can't make it, he's calling a sub. And so doing those stupid little gigs that paid $1.32, I met all these great musicians, and including Ferron Aklaf, that I'm about to put this record out with. I met an astonishing array of great players. Jeff Beal, trumpeter and composer, that's been in LA now for years. I just recorded a film score with him, and we're about to play in Carnegie Hall. I met him in the 80s on one of these, $1.17 Tom Pearson gigs.
That's fantastic.
So my advice to young players is start wherever you can. When you're young and you're just getting started, take any gig, do anything, and see where it leads, because it's amazing how all these branches of my big musical tree, so many of them come back to that Tom Pearson situation. Of course, if it hadn't been Tom, it would have been something else. And, I wouldn't be just sitting around New York with nothing to do. I would have found, but that gig was the launching pad for me.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Yeah, because then you played with everyone, like from Bob Mintzers to George Grunzis to all the big bands. And I wanted to ask you also about your connection with Maria Schneider. I mean, you're in that band, I think, since the beginning, right?
Yeah.
How did you hook up with Maria? Like, what's the story with her?
I think it started with John Fedchuk, the trombonist and composer from the Woody Herman band. He was her husband.
Yeah.
And so they started that band together. It was the John Fedchuk, Maria Schneider big band.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
This was in the late 80s, 89 or something, or 88 even, maybe, when that got started. And I'm not sure how I got involved with Fedchuk. Might have been Tom Pearson. Could have been Tom Pearson or something else. I don't know. But then John was doing things. He was writing stuff for Japanese karaoke companies and doing little recording sessions in town for those. And I got hired for some of those. So somehow I got involved with John, and then he wanted me in this big band, which he was starting with his wife. And so that's kind of how that got going. I mean, by that time I knew Maria, and she was, I think, writing some of these karaoke things too. We've all got to start someplace.
Sure. Sure.
So they started the band together, and we did some gigs and stuff. But then they split it up, and they split up the band and their marriage both. And it became two separate things.
Yeah.
Been with her ever since. It's been quite a ride, and she's a very, very dear friend. She's been more than anyone, actually, even my own family. She's been more than anyone. She's been the one that's been checking in on me through this period of
beautiful
cancer situation and everything, and the operation and the fallout and everything. She's really been involved in and giving me advice and encouragement and everything, because she's a cancer survivor too.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So the point I'm trying to make is she's a very dear friend. She's not just an employer or something, or a colleague. She's a very, very dear personal friend, a very important person in my life in many, many ways. And she really helped launch my career, because I'm a lot better known now from having been in a band and all of those albums than I would have been.
Yeah. But you also became, I mean, you made also the sound of that band. It's also vice versa. I think you're like an integral part of that big band. I mean, when I hear those records, it's like, shit, that's you, that's Scott. I mean, you're there. It's part of that band. I mean, I don't know. That's how I hear it.
Well, now you sound like Maria, because that, bless her heart, that's exactly the kind of thing that she says, She's always very quick to say in interviews and things, she's very quick to say, I wouldn't be writing the way I'm writing if it wasn't for my band, if it wasn't for the way that they inspire me and the things that they bring to my music that I didn't even hear or imagine. And that makes me think of new ideas in the next piece. And so she's always very gracious about you know, in interviews or when she's on the microphone, she always gives a lot of credit to her band members for helping shape her sound and be a part of the whole process of creating that music. And let's be realistic, every band leader's not like that.
That's absolutely true. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
A lot of band leaders don't even want you to bring your own thing and, you know, surprise them with stuff. No, they want you in the, anyway, I'm not going to name names.
No, but I know what you mean. Yeah, exactly.
Of course you do.
Yeah. No, it's like you know, you and Rich Perry and I don't know, Tim Higgins and all these guys that's been there for quite a long time. I think that's what the sound of the band is. I mean, like obviously it's her compositions and everything, but still it's what you're saying that's important. It's a team play in the end, right? It's teamwork. So
It goes both ways. I mean, we wouldn't play everything we play if we weren't put into her musical situations that she's created that bring new things out of us.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the pieces she's written a bunch of pieces that just feature me, big long features, and those pieces they bring something out of me that isn't what I play all the time everywhere, and so it goes both ways.
Definitely. Yeah. Scott, not to take too much of your time, I just wanted to ask you one thing more. Like, when did you start leading bands when you were in New York, and how did that begin, the band leading aspect of your career?
I'm not a very good band leader. I'm an idea guy, but getting people in a room and telling them what I want them to do and stuff, I'm a little bit nervous about that, and I've been taken a task for that actually in the past. I've been told, you know, you need to, you know, this is your vision. You need to step up and tell us what you want us to do. You know, don't just ask questions all the time. And what do you guys think? And well, is this a good tempo and stuff like that? So I am a little bit insecure. I wouldn't make a good band leader like some of the ones I've worked for, let's say. But I'm an idea guy, and I have a lot of ideas and things I want to try and things I want to do. So this began in high school. I tried to, you know, I lived in a little town in Virginia, a little country town, and I went to a high school that had a pretty good music program for what it was. There were a few really great players, like my wife. And my friend Robbie Everhart and a couple of others, but it wasn't a really widely respected music program. And we had a kind of a jazz band, a big band that was not good. I was very interested in this music, and I was starting to listen to records all the time, all night and everything, and get really, really excited about. I mean, that record on your wall, Nuke's Time, that's one of the ones I devoured when I was a kid, along with Louis Armstrong, Eddie Harris, Sun Ra, a lot of other things. And, you know, in high school, I was just very involved in this music, and I was starting to write things, and I was playing saxophone and flute, and I was playing a little bit of vibes and marimba and stuff. And I put a little quartet together, and I didn't have much choice of players because there just weren't many options. There was one guy that you know played the drum set, and there was one guy that played bass that could kind of walk changes and stuff, and there was one pianist that could read changes and kind of do things. And so I put these guys together, and I formed my first quartet, and I wrote music for it and arrangements and things. And but it was difficult because I mean I loved all these guys and they were great, you know, but the level of commitment was not what I would have wanted. So the thing that always kind of bugged me was I would always write arco things because that's such a great sound, the arco bass. I always wanted that sound. Like, okay, so I'd write my little arrangements, and then I wanted to go arco here and there. And I just could never get him to do it. Like, bring your bow, right? You're gonna bring the bow. Yeah, I'll bring the bow because this part calls for the arco. Yeah, okay. And then he shows up without the bow. And he's like, well, I'll play the part, boom, boom, boom. It's like, that's not the sound, Next week, bring your bow. Okay, I'll bring it next week. No bow. You know what I mean? That kind of thing just made me insane. And it just felt very difficult to get anything going. We had a few gigs. I got us a few little gigs in little restaurants and stuff. It was pretty pathetic, but we had some fun. We had a good time, but it just was never destined to go anywhere. So then when I went to Boston to go to Berklee College of Music, all of a sudden, I was surrounded with all kinds of players that were there to play. They wanted to play. They were people like me. They wanted to write music and play it, wanted to learn standards and play them, wanted to play really fast, wanted to play really slow, wanted to try this and try that. And man, it was heaven for me because I didn't have to beg anymore. People are asking me to play. And it was great. It wasn't just me pleading with people to try to do something. I could ask people and they would, yeah, let's play tonight, and then people would come up to me. You want to play tomorrow night? Yeah. It was wonderful. And my classmates were people like Wallace Roney, Jeff Watts, Branford Marsalis, Hendrik Merkins, Aaron Hike, Arenthal, Cyrus Chestnut, Greg Osby, on and on and on. Dave Kakowski, all these great, amazing musicians who are out here now, playing all kinds of stuff. Marvin Smitty Smith, we used to get together and play duets.
Really? Oh man, okay.
It was just a wonderful time for me to just really dive into the music. And my roommate was Julian Thayer, who's involved with so many of my science-sonic projects. Now, he became a scientist. He's one of the world's leading psychophysiologists, very renowned researcher. But he plays the bass, and in those days, he was there as a bass player, and he was my roommate. And so I made a lot of lifelong friendships. Emil Viklitsky, that I mentioned before, was one of our classmates. We started a little band together, and I really looked up to him. So that was just a wonderful growth period for me. So that's how I got it. So then I was in a better position, to get back to your question.
Yeah, no.
I was in a better position to lead groups and write for bands and do things because I had people that would actually want to get together and rehearse, would want to try my music, would want to bring the bow and play the bow and all this other stuff. And so I had several different groups over the years, and there were places to play around Boston and stuff. And so it was just a really a beautiful period.
Yeah, imagine, yeah. Yeah, like especially your generation of players, so it's amazing. I mean, you already mentioned so many, and it's like, yeah, incredible.
Oh, I left out a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'll think of all these other people I should have mentioned, but Terry Lynn Carrington was there. We used to play a lot and go to lunch together and stuff, and just wonderful friends from all over the world. Niels Landoki from Denmark, and French musicians and Japanese musicians and African musicians and all kinds of people from all over the world converged there.
Yeah.
And it was a very happy time for me.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, super. Scott, when you release the new albums, please let me know. Drop me lines. I'm really looking forward to hearing them. Just that I know. I mean, I'm on your mailing list, but still.
Well, if you're on the mailing list, then you'll know when I know. You'll know
Okay.
what's happening. But I can tell you this, the new album, Art, I've got to have it by June 20
Okay.
because we have a little tour, a little tiny little tour. We're playing Holyoke, Massachusetts, Utica, New York, and Rochester, New York. We got 3 gigs in a row, and Rochester's a big festival, big international festival, so that's a nice gig for us. And so I'm kind of excited about this. We got this little miniature tour, and we're gonna have a new album and everything, and it's about time. It's high time. So that album I'm gonna have it in hand by June 20th.
Fantastic. Super.
Yeah.
Is this music going to be available on Bandcamp or something like that as well, or?
No.
No. Okay. Okay.
I'm a little bit of a sourpuss about streaming and
Yeah.
all these other things. I mean, maybe someday maybe I'll change my mind about certain things. But I grew up with albums.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree.
They're objects, they're religious artifacts.
Yes.
They have the sound, they have the imagery, the words. I never listened to an album without reading every word and looking very carefully at every picture. I digest the whole package. I don't read while I'm listening, but I'll listen, and then when I'm done listening, I read everything. I look at the photos, and my old Sun Ra albums, I would put those albums on and just stare at the covers, and just like go into that world. So to me, the artwork and everything it's a really important part of the whole package. It's just one more tool to reach people. And when I created my label, Science Sonic, I built the whole look of the label, the website, everything around the paintings of Richard Powers, who did science fiction book cover paintings in the 1950s and 60s. He's a big hero of mine. I grew up reading those books and looking at those covers. And now he's deceased, but I'm a friend of the family. And I've spent a lot of time with his son, Rich, and I have an agreement with the estate to use these paintings for my Science Sonic album covers. And that's all done with permission and everything. And so that is all very important to me.
It is, yeah, I agree.
And I hate to just first of all, streaming doesn't pay anything. Other people make the money. The musicians don't make any money unless you're some big top name. Otherwise, you make zero. And I don't want to give I put too much into my music to just give it away like that. And when it goes up on streaming, there's no information. Nobody sees anything or reads anything. And I just don't feel like I want to be involved in that way of consuming music.
Yeah.
So I've just stuck with physical product. I've been saying since long before they became trendy again. I've been saying I want to do LPs.
Vinyl, yeah.
Back when my friends thought I was crazy. Why? That's outdated. That's blah, 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 blah. Now they're in fashion and they're selling for good money now. I still haven't done it. See, that's how far behind I am with every aspect of my life. That's a problem with me. But I am going to do LPs, and those are beautiful objects too, with the artwork and everything. And I just would rather do that than just throw music up somewhere where somebody, goes clickety clickety click, and then they wash the dishes and they hear something in the background and don't even really know what it is or who's on it or anything. And then sometimes people will ask me, like I did a C melody. I did a whole album on the C melody saxophone back around 2001 or something. and that ended up on the streaming services and stuff. And people would contact me and say, "Oh, I heard this record you did on the C melody. That's fantastic. It sounds great. And why do you think the C melody went out of fashion? And what was it really for? And what was it? When was it made? And everything." And I say, I wrote a whole essay about that that's printed in the package,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
whole thing about that. I put a lot of time into that and really wrote this beautiful essay about it. But see, nobody sees it, nobody reads it. So then they ask me these questions.
Yeah. 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 No, I agree with you. I'm still with CDs, I'm a big fan of, like reading the liner notes and seeing the musicians, and yeah. So yeah, I get you.
In a way, it's good that, music is a non-material thing and it's
Yeah.
kind of a spiritual thing. And to the extent that it takes you away from the material world, that's a beautiful thing. But for me, that's outweighed by the chance to really grab somebody with art and with a more complete artistic statement that does have some words, some carefully chosen words to accompany certain things, maybe just to open the door
Mhm.
of understanding for the listener, just anything that I can do that helps bring people in, maybe is a good thing. And the artwork does that also. The artwork draws you in.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I fell in love with Sun Ra's music. It's been so important to me. As a kid, I fell in love with it because of the cover art on this album. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, look at that. That looks like one of my science fiction books I've always.
True.
What does that sound like in music? What does something that looks like that sound like in music?
Yeah.
Changed my life. And there was poetry on the back, and that changed my life. So I'm a big believer in presenting a whole package, at least when you have the opportunity to. And so physical albums, LPs, vinyl, whatever it is, that gives you the opportunity
Mhm.
to make a really complete artistic statement. In fact, I've put out enhanced CDs that have videos on them too,
Oh, okay.
photo galleries. And so then that's even better. Now
That's
you
better. Yeah.
even more ways to reach somebody with the totality of the vision of what it is that you're creating. And that gives you a better chance to reach people because it's hard to reach people.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, beautiful. Uh, Scott, I will not take more of your time, but thanks for sharing some of these thoughts, man. I mean, and really appreciate it. So beautiful to hear you talk. So
Well, thank you for, I love talking about what I do. So
yeah, it's so
uh,
nice. I mean, beautiful.
I enjoy it, and I appreciate being asked. I appreciate your interest and wanting to have me. You've had quite a astonishing roster of guests on this
Yeah,
thing.
thanks to Joe Daley. He gave me your email, so thanks, Joe. So
Oh,
he
okay,
hooked another one of your
okay,
Tuba Chronicles cohorts players, like going back.
yeah,
So yeah, so yeah.
yeah. The Tuba Chronicles Volume 1 was recorded here at the
Ah,
laboratory. Did you
okay.
know that?
No, but I mean, I know it. I listened to it. It's such a beautiful album. I mean, it's beautiful
Yeah,
music.
Volume 1 was done right here, and
Ah, okay.
and then Volume 2, the one that just came out,
Yeah,
Volume 2, that was recorded in Connecticut,
yeah,
New Haven, Connecticut,
beautiful. Yeah,
and that's a beautiful record. I was
yeah,
listening to that, and
it's really
I
beautiful. Yeah,
brought the big 7-foot saxophone for that. The big giant saxophone has a big solo on that. It's pretty
it's
impressive sound.
yeah, it's nice. It's a nice trio. I mean, all three of you. It's beautiful, beautiful unit. Nice to hear you guys. Yeah,
Yeah, I was very pleased with that album.
yeah.
I really was.
So yeah, the Joe was another of the roster of players. Yeah, it's getting
Okay.
out of hand. My wife is always like, "Man, you have another interview." I was like, "Yeah, the list is like not. I'm not even on 10% of who I want to talk to." Like that.
Wow.
It's
That's
just
amazing. No, I looked at the list of what you got. It's like,
yeah,
You got quite a lot of interesting people, so that's great. I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah,
and
thank you
happy to be
for
part of that group.
thank you for
Speaking of
being
Joe
a part.
Daley, did you notice my shirt?
Yes, I did.
You know what this logo is?
No, actually.
This shirt came out of Howard Johnson's apartment.
Really? Oh shit.
His
Wow.
widow gave me this shirt. This was Howard Johnson's
Gravity or
logo that he drew himself, according to
I
her.
didn't know that. Wow.
This was the logo for his group that he called Gravity, his
Gravity,
tuba,
yeah.
which of course included Joe Daley. So
Oh, cool.
it's interesting that you mentioned Joe, and I just happen to be wearing this shirt.
The tuba connection, yeah.
Yeah, isn't that a beautiful design?
That's amazing, man. Yeah. That's a nice
And you
shirt.
know, Howard's F tuba, the small F tuba that he used to play lead on a lot of those arrangements, lives here in the laboratory now.
Wow. That's
And I used it. I played it on the new Art album. So that's going to be released very soon with Howard's tuba. So
you should try that also. Yeah, it's all connected. It's all connected, man. Yeah. But Scott, for next year, let's stay in touch via email and let's make it happen. I mean, really, you're really invited to come here. Don't be shy to. And
I appreciate that. I'll bet you that you're going to see me. You're going to see. I'm going to take you up on that.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, like, I'd love to, show you around here and where we live, and it's a nice region. The food, it's like really a food and wine country where we live, and so it's really beautiful.
No, Slovenia is one of those places that I think I've only been twice, and I've come away saying, this is a place I want to come back.
Yeah.
Because it is a very beautiful countryside there.
It is. Yeah, it's so green, and it's happy to be here.
That's what I came away with most was like green. Like, wow,
Yeah.
there's a lot of green here.
It's very green. Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
It's
well,
beautiful.
thank you.
Cool.
I'll take you up on it. I'll visit you one day.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. Cool.
Great.
Thanks so much, Scott. I'll let you know when this is out, like in June, end of June, probably, or something like that. So.
Okay, did you get the part with the money? Did you get this part?
No, I forgot, but you have to show this. There's like, I wasn't recording yet.
I'll show it right now. You're still recording?
Yeah.
So look what I have on my wall. This is the old Slovenian money with Saturn and all these planets on it. And here you've got a Yuri Vega. What was he, an astronomer or something?
Yeah. Amazing, man. Yeah, this is like.
Here he is with his mathematics and stuff.
That's a rarity.
Probably calculating orbits or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a nice looking money actually. Before we got Euro.
Great. As soon as I saw this, I said, "Man, this is fantastic." So I brought this home and I kept it, and it's been on my wall over here for many, many years.
Amazing. Good connection.
But when I come to your place, so we'll go to a cafe and
you'll pay with this. Like
I'll hand this over and we'll see what kind of reaction we get.
Well, if the waitress would be above 50, she would love it, man. She would give you free coffee probably or something. But the youngsters would not.
I'm not giving this away.
No.
But I might have more because I have old money from all different countries here in little containers. So I probably have some other obsolete money. But anyway, this one I'm keeping.
Cool,
all right,
man.
Samo.
Cool. Scott, stay in touch, and I wish you a good recovery and that you get better soon. So.